Oh, would you look at what day of the week it is? Would you look at your calendar and see what day it is? It's that day. It's that day.
And now that we've done all that, I know what you guys are here for. I know what people want to see. I know what people expect from me. I know what the hot topic is right now. The hot topic is Squid Game. It's time for us to go into the main event. I think that I can ramble about Squid Game for quite a while because I have a lot of feelings about it. There have been some insane takes. There have been some people trying to claim that Squid Game is about something it's not. There have been people trying to claim this is actually about communism because people are ridiculous. That's ultimately what it comes down to, is people are just ridiculous and they don't understand the difference between communism versus capitalism because they've had this meme for so long that communism and socialism is when basically economic structures are failing. So when they see the failings of the capitalist economic structure, they're like, actually no, this isn't capitalism, it's clearly socialism, it's clearly communism. As a result, there have been so many bad takes about Squid Game from people who genuinely just do not care to understand what the show is about. They genuinely do not have the context or the education in these topics or in history in general, the history of that region, the history of that country, to actually understand what it's criticizing. Of course, Squid Game is criticizing capitalism. You know why? Because Squid Game is set in South Korea, and even though motherfuckers for some reason cannot separate North Korea from South Korea, and they think that North Korea is communist, when it's not, it's a version of authoritarian capitalism that is somewhat similar to things that have called themselves communism, but the effects of late-stage capitalism, the extreme level of capitalism that has taken place in South Korea, makes it impossible to live. You know, there's a freedom in the sense that the government isn't telling you what to do, but there's a lack of freedom in the fact that you are a slave to your circumstances. And I think that's really the big theme in showing, like, you know, all of these people voted to leave the games, and then they end up going right back in because they don't actually have the freedom to say no to an opportunity like that. They're willing to risk their lives to potentially die for a chance to escape the circumstances that they've been put in because of late-stage capitalism, because of the capitalist influence from the United States that has been placed within South Korea because of our occupation there. And that's ultimately what the message is. We see all of these bad takes on screen right now. All these awful takes about how, you know, oh, well, it's actually about, you know, North Korea. Actually, they say it's about capitalism, but no, it's about communism. And of course, a certain internet personality, which we are not going to acknowledge because no free clout, Squid Game and its massively global success proves again the uniquely Western obsession of checking on screen boxes that has nothing to do with producing a better product, nor is it a requirement for quality, as we already know. Hollywood is killing itself and that's great, is explicitly a scathing critique of capitalism. And if you cannot see that, it's because you are actually just completely ignorant, which is exactly why I've been avoiding both of these videos. People have been talking about them, and I've been avoiding them because I'm like, dude, do I really want to hear Ben Shapiro just spew the same tired talking points? It's literally the fucking meme of like communism, socialism bad because it fails, you know? Like the fucking if socialism was a beer thing. The fact that these far-right pundits who have no actual understanding of what socialism or communism are, their entire understanding of it is, oh, it doesn't work and it fails. Like that's their entire worldview and their entire understanding of the differences between the main economic structures. So you see a failing economic policy, and they're like, oh, well, that's socialism. That's why they can't wrap their head around a scathing critique of capitalism not being about communism. It has literally been going on for so long. That's why all these idiots think that 1984 is about communism when it's literally George Orwell. Like, he was completely anti-capitalism. And that's part of the reason why I didn't even want to watch this video, but I'm willing to suffer through it for content, is because I can literally already predict what Ben Shapiro is going to say. And here's the thing, is there is actually a somewhat reasonable reason to think that, no, actually it's about communism, because they made that point about how, well, within the games, everyone should have an equal shot. But the thing is, the reason why communism and socialism have themes of equality is because the idea is resources should be distributed equally. People should be compensated not for what they offer to society, but for the baseline of like what you need to survive in society. That's the idea. And with capitalism, it's like, well, everyone has an equal shot to succeed. but we're also not going to account for things like generational wealth. We're not going to account for starting points. Like, for example, like in Squid Games, they're not saying like, oh, well, these people have an edge because, you know, they've been in the games before, or because, you know, they might be smarter or stronger, like physically stronger. They don't care if a dude just fucking kills someone in the living quarters. Like, that's completely fine. It's actually more resembling of a free market than a controlled market, which is something that would be more reflective of socialism. And they don't even care that, like, people are hoarding resources within the games. They don't care. There's no penalty for that. The whole, like, fact that they mention equality doesn't automatically mean, oh yeah, it's actually about communism, especially when the creator specifically said, no, it's about capitalism. And I literally know that Ben Shapiro, he's not even going to go down that route that I just described. He's literally going to say something along the lines of like, well, actually, they're all dying and starving, and it's a bad thing. It's a bad situation. Therefore, it's actually communism. And I haven't watched either of these videos. I just want to make that clear. But we're going to do that now for content. And without further ado, let's listen to this gremlin talk.
Alrighty, today, my review of Squid Game. Which, first off, this is going to be filled with spoilers. So if you haven't actually seen Squid Game and you want to watch this very disturbing show and you don't want to know what's about to happen, then you really shouldn't watch this review. It's basically a guy who is living in poverty. He is divorced. He has a bad relationship with his ex-wife. He's kind of a derelict. He's a gambler. And he's fallen into tremendous amounts of debt with a gang, with some sort of mob. And he eventually is approached by a man in a subway station who decides to play a game with him. And the stakes of the game are that if he loses, then the man gets to slap him in the face really, really hard. And if he wins, then the guy gives him money.
Simplifying it like that kind of misses the point. The game is you can either pay with money or you can pay with getting slapped. Because if you have money to avoid consequences, there are a lot of things in society where you can avoid consequences, because like there are a lot of crimes where the punishment is you pay a fine. And if you can't pay the fine, well, you go to jail. And that's a privilege where it shows like you can technically get away with committing crime if you have the money to pay for the fine that comes with the crime. But if you don't have that money, then you're gonna actually face real consequences. Which you could say like, well, you know, losing money is a consequence, but it's like, would you rather lose a fraction of your savings account, or would you rather spend the next 5 years in jail? I'm gonna assume you would pick the former.
Like,
Can I just say, holy shit, Ben Shapiro, your ability to construct and make videos is really bad. Like, you're just going through and like describing what happens. I feel like you shouldn't need to do that. Like, I mean, I guess this is kind of my pet peeve as someone who makes videos. And this is something I realized like really early on, is I was like, I do not have fun making a video about like a show or a topic if I'm literally just gonna sit there and be like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this is what happens here. Why the fuck are you gonna be like, spoiler warning, and then give a bunch of context for everything that happens beat by beat, like line by line, and be like, let's just re-summarize everything? And it's like, this has nothing to do with your actual point. You're just filling out the video. I think you need to like touch on that shit and then give your interpretation. Like, what does that mean? Why is this important? You might have had an intern just hand him an outline because it's pretty basic. I mean, even then, like, you should get better writers. Not that I'm like expecting to be entertained by a Ben Shapiro video. Don't get me wrong. But come on, dude.
It is kind of disturbing in that everybody is being killed off, but you know, very much like Battle Royale, the Japanese precursor to Hunger Games or Hunger Games itself.
This isn't really related to the overall theme of what I'm getting at, but I feel like comparing Squid Games to Hunger Games or Battle Royale, actually I don't know much about Battle Royale, but I think like with Hunger Games, like the entire premise of like why they were in the Hunger Games was like the government was an authoritarian government that was like, hey yo, what if we just like had a bunch of kids kill each other? Wouldn't that be fucked up but also entertaining? In the Squid Games, it's a lot more disturbing because it's not like they're being forced into this. It's literally like they're being pushed into a position of desperation that a lot of people can identify with if they are working class or have been in a situation where they do not have the money to make ends meet and they're in tremendous amounts of debt and they're basically in the exact material circumstances. Like, most people are not within the material circumstances of Hunger Games. The target audience cannot relate to the same extent where they are motivated. Like, there's an intrinsic motivation, there's like a sense of choice, but also a lack of choice. I feel like that's way more disturbing. And I feel like that entire balance of power is completely different and hits a completely different resonance within the audience. And that's part of why Squid Game is so popular. That's also, ironically, the same reason why it's so popular in the United States. Is the United States is the reason why South Korea is in this situation with like late stage capitalism, because we've basically gone around the world, and every country that we have any type of influence or power over, we go in and we're like, hey, yo, like, here's capitalism, like, you guys have to be like this type of government. And then they end up in this situation that, ironically, a lot of people in the United States can identify with, because they're under the same system and they're facing a lot of the same issues.
Players at any given time decide that they no longer want to play the game, then the entire game is disbanded, and the money that was collected for the game is distributed to the families of the people who died. So in an early episode, that's one of the things, and the money that was collected for the game is distributed to the families of the people who died.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's what happened. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll have to fact check this after the video, after the stream, but like, I don't think that's what happened. I think that it just moved over into the next game. I'm pretty sure when they came back, the prize pool is the exact same as when they left, from all the people who had died. Okay, so I actually did fact check it, and they did say Ben Shapiro was actually correct to some extent. They did say they would go back to the families, but clearly in the next episode, it didn't. The prize pool stayed the same, so he's not looking for context, he's looking for points he can make into propaganda. His intern probably didn't. I mean, even then, he's doing a bad job. I'm so fucking tired of Ben Shapiro. Like, as much as, like, I hate his fucking point of view, I hate his worldview, I hate the way, like, his entire, like, ideology, he's just not a good content creator. He is just awful at his job. He's not a good speaker. He talks fast, and he can convince people he's smart, but really the shit is so pseudo-intellectual, and the actual structure of his arguments and the structure of his videos is fucking dog shit. Like, I'm sorry, but it's fucking dog shit. He is a shitty fucking content creator. He has literally used outrage culture and being a grifting fucking reactionary conservative who's fucking upset that he couldn't fit in with the liberals in Hollywood, and also going to fucking colleges and fucking shitting on 18-year-olds who don't know how to fucking formulate a complete sentence and being like, actually, with gotcha questions. Like, that's his entire fucking career. He's a fucking hack. This is completely separate of his, like, if he was a liberal or a progressive or a leftist, I would say the same shit, because he is just a dog shit fucking creator. He is a dog shit personality, and this is just not a good video. Like, I'm almost more offended by the fact that this video is dog shit, just from an objective point of view, than the shitty arguments that he's making, because I'm so desensitized to how awful his points are, that I literally don't even care anymore, and I'm just seeing how shitty of a fucking creator he is.
Episode, that's one of the things that happened.
Also, look at this fucking cuck putting property of Netflix on the top of the screen. You fucking loser. Holy shit, your wife can't get wet. What the fuck is wrong with you?
It is a dystopian thriller, and so the politics are very communistic in nature.
What did I say? He's literally like, it's dystopian, so it's communism. He literally did exactly what I said. And this is why I didn't want to watch this video on my own. Because I'm like, he's literally just gonna do that. He is literally so fucking stupid. Are you fucking 5'2" moron? You fucking 4'11" idiot. You fucking troglodyte. You literally made the exact point that I knew you were going to make because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Holy shit. Does he realize that actual communism would make people work for the good of the society and not play games for large money rewards? No, he doesn't make that. He doesn't realize that. He just thinks, oh, it's dystopian, so it's communism.
And there's a scene where the North Korean escapee is asked by another character.
I also love how he doesn't even try to pronounce their names.
You escaped from North Korea. Was it worth it? And the answer seems to be not really, which is kind of a strange take because North Korea is a giant gulag. It's a giant prison camp. So.
Oh, wow, that's such a strange take. It's almost like living in poverty under capitalism is not a huge upgrade from living in security under an authoritarian government that ruins your life.
VIPs who bet on who is going to win and who's going to lose the game, they're all American. Like, they're all these big American fat cats. So it's
I don't think they're all American. They just speak English. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean they're American.
There's not a good American in the entire show. They're just a bunch of Americans who are wearing these glittery masks, a la Hunger Games.
It's a South Korean show. Why would there's like, this man's literally like, yo, dude, there's not enough good, positive representation of Americans. I find it really funny how, like, Ben Shapiro is always, like, the first one to be like, oh my god, these minorities are, like, asking for too much to expect to be portrayed in media and, like, get representation, and now he's upset that in a South Korean show the American representation isn't positive. Why is that even that didn't even cross my mind, that, like, oh, you know, there's not positive representation in this show for Americans. Like, I was literally watching this show the entire time, like, damn, we really fucked up South Korea. That was literally my thought process the entire time, was like, damn, we really fucked them over.
Right, so the old man is playing, and it turns out that he's playing out of fun. He's not actually playing because he is worried about dying. He does have brain cancer, that part's true, but he's the head of a major corporation. He's a very wealthy industrialist, and his entire shtick is that all of this is justified. Squid Game is justified because it is, in fact, more fair than the actual capitalist economy that is in place in South Korea.
Okay, this is actually where I feel like they didn't do a good job of showing that Il-nam's worldview is actually wrong. They made it seem a little bit too justified. And his entire worldview is the idea that, like, well, the world is cruel and humans are intrinsically cruel and they don't care about other people. Therefore, putting them in a situation where they're going to act on those human primal instincts and kill each other to get ahead is completely justifiable, which is, again, a completely capitalist point of view. But then, like, the show counters that by showing people who are in those situations, people who, like Ji-young, like Gi-hoon tries to do a few times, aside from when him and Il-nam are playing marbles, where they are willing to choose death and are willing to put other people first, even when they are pushed to the extremes of being like, all right, you either gotta fuck the other person over or you're dying. Like, you get no choice. Like, gun to your head, are you gonna be a good person or are you gonna look out for yourself? And, like, there are times where people actually are like, you know what, I'm gonna be a good person still. And you don't really think about that because those people die. They don't get to have their impression last through the rest of the show, and they don't get to tell their stories because they're dead. Because those people are willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, for their own moral compass. But then they don't actually get to, you know, the winners are the ones who write history. Anyways, what do you actually say right there?
Only the population sees the means of production through majority votes.
I was kind of taken back by that statement. I'm like, this isn't really about seizing the means of production. There is no seizing the means of production in Squid Games. There is no point of, like, them doing that. That's not, like, the happy ending. Maybe that's in the second season. Maybe that's why he didn't get on the plane. I don't know. I don't exactly know where they're going to go with that. Gi-hoon tries to use his now VIP status, and I think that's really interesting because, like, Gi-hoon goes from being in that position to then being a VIP, and that's part of the reason why he's the main character, is we're meant to empathize with all these people in the Squid Games, but the fact that we're even, like, watching this show on Netflix, and I think most of us who are watching, aside from, like, probably a small minority, are living from a place of comfort. Like, we're coming from a place where we're not currently in that level of desperation, but we also know that level of desperation to some degree, and we can kind of understand it. So we go from Gi-hoon's perspective as a contestant to then he wins, and now he has this level of guilt, and that's, like, kind of a realization of, like, wait, we were actually the VIPs the whole time. Like, we were actually watching from that point of view. A lot of people, since it's so huge, may never even, like, make that connection, that the entire time they were watching these characters who are incredibly marginalized, who are in an incredibly bad situation, battle for their lives throughout these games as a way to entertain ourselves. Like, we're deriving entertainment from their suffering the same way that the VIPs were in the show, and it's having Gi-hoon get to that level of economic prosperity is a way to kind of frame our perspective and make us realize, like, oh shit, like, we spent all that time, like, empathizing with them, but at the same time, we were kind of in the situation of privilege. And Gi-hoon getting to that point kind of shows, like, okay, you can be in that position of privilege, be able to succeed under the system, and still recognize, like, remorse for the people who had to suffer in order for you to get there. And also be able to understand that you have a responsibility to try and make things better, and be able to use that situation and use your advantages, now your influence and power within that system, to potentially make things better for people who don't have the options to, like, escape that system. So I think that's really kind of more the message than, like, we need to seize the means of production. It's more so, like, the people who are in power are not doing enough to actually improve society as a whole and are only looking out for themselves, which is why capitalism only works on paper.
The sort of capitalist critique and doesn't have a lot of support other than sort of the polemical notion that anybody who's involved in the capitalist system is somehow corrupt and evil. You literally see no business people other than people who are exploitative or embezzling.
What did I just say, though? I just said that Gi-hoon is the point of view of someone who is in that position and isn't like that. Someone who is actually trying to better society and is actually trying to make things better for the people who are below him, because he has the point of view to understand that shit. Also, like, I don't know, this shit just seems like homie's being a little too sensitive.
In this show, all of the poor people are perceived as sort of innately more noble than the people who are rich, even though the reality is that the poor people in the show, aside from the North Korean refugee, like the main character is a derelict gambler. He's a bad guy.
Wait.
Okay, and his-
Wait. So the gambler, someone who is literally dealing with an addiction, he's intrinsically bad, but the person who is a gaslight gatekeep girl boss and is literally robbing people, no, she's actually like sympathetic and noble. I think this homie is, bro. Can Ben Shapiro not be horny on main for like 2 seconds? Like first AOC, now this, like
he's gradually ennobled by his participation in the game is sort of the idea, but all of the characters who are seen to participate in the capitalist system are, of course, very, very bad.
that's a completely shallow and not good interpretation. Like the interpretation that I had wasn't that like, oh, he's in this situation where things are bad and now he's suddenly a good person. It was that he was a good person already, but in order to survive in capitalism, he develops these vices which made him much more willing to take advantage of other people. And we see that come through in the Squid Games every once in a while, but ultimately he does look out for other people. Like he cares about his daughter and he cares about his mother, and that's like what's driving his desperation. Like even though he like did kind of fuck over his mom in like a few ways, he was ultimately trying to improve their situation, which was out of his own desperation that he was trying to do that. So that's kind of the point, is he is a good person who has made bad decisions. And of course, someone who is ultra capitalist like Ben Shapiro is going to be like, actually no, these people are just bad, and that's why they're in this situation to begin with. Is like these people are having trouble under capitalism because they're just bad people, not because they're good people who have been put in a really bad situation. Not that Ben Shapiro would know anything about that coming from his privileged background. So let's see what Tim Pool had to say. I think that he is one of the smartest of all the idiots, even though he's still an idiot. I don't entirely trust his interpretation, but we'll see what he says.
I want to talk about Squid Game. We should talk about Squid Game.
Yeah.
What about it?
So I think Squid Game is... I don't think it's overtly political. My takeaway from it was communism bad.
You know what? I appreciate the honesty. He didn't even try and like hide it behind like, he was just like, no, communism bad. You know what? If you're gonna be a fucking idiot, you might as well just be like, hey, yo, I'm a fucking idiot. Everybody look at me. I'm a fucking idiot, bro. Like, you might as well just do that. I want to hear how he describes it, because that might give some insights.
It's a bunch of desperate people in debt, and then all of a sudden they get an opportunity to play in a game, but the game is brutal and you die in it. But if you don't, you win. I think it's like equivalent of US like $35 to $40 million. I think the whole thing is the perfect example of somebody who thinks they're opposing capitalism, but just makes communism and wokeness look really, really dumb.
Huh.
And the show ends up being, in my opinion, more anti-communist than anything. So one of the big themes in the show is that everyone is equal.
Okay, he actually went with the talking point that I said I didn't think they were going to go with. Which is like, yeah, okay, I can see why someone would fall into that trap of like, they mention equality once within the game, so therefore it's communism. And that's not how it works.
And there's an arc in the show where it's like somebody violates the equality and so they kill him. And they were like,
oh my god, dude. You see, this is why I was kind of like not looking forward to watching this one, and also didn't want to watch it on stream, is because Tim Pool says shit like this, which is so like actually like stupid. You need time to like process it and actually like translate it from idiot into like normal human being like language. I read Anthem by Ayn Rand once, so I know what socialism is. How do you like bring that back into like the realm of reality to explain why it's wrong? And that's how a lot of these conservatives win debates, and that's why a lot of them are debate lords, is they'll do that. They'll literally just like take things off into like a completely different reality where they're right, and be like, actually, I read Ayn Rand one time, and so I know that communism is one equality by force. And it's like, it actually has nothing to do with the actual conversation, and it has actually nothing to do with like what that is in reality. You are literally going by what you read in a piece of fiction as a description of how real world things work. You could potentially make that criticism of Squid Game. They literally have the ability, through the fact that this is a piece of fiction, to just warp reality in any way they want to. But I think a lot of people realize that Squid Game is a little bit too close to reality to really make that criticism, so you can't, you can try and make that point. It's not going to be easy to make that point. But with Anthem and with Ayn Rand and a lot of her work, it's just so deranged and detached from reality, where it's like, you can be like, oh, well, actually, this is all symbolism. and you actually need a really high IQ to understand, which is also why I feel like a lot of literature, I feel like that's even why 1984 is so easily misinterpreted, is because a lot of literature from like that era and like that genre, like a lot of those authors just try and go way too abstract to a point where it's like you've become detached from reality itself, and like it's really hard to have people genuinely understand what you mean. Whereas like you have something like Squid Game, which actually does a really good job of portraying the way things are in reality and making a critique on the systems in place that have led to that reality, where it actually I think is more constructive to look at things like that and more constructive to tell stories in that way.
Here's how the show ends. You've been warned. In this equal system, everyone dies but one person who gets all of the money.
And that's communism, apparently. Like, what? He said that like it was a gotcha.
That doesn't sound to me like capitalism.
That sounds exactly like capitalism. Holy shit, are you a fucking moron? Yeah, look at fucking Amazon. Amazon's real fucking communist, and like that's a real Marxist fucking structure, right? How fucking all these people who work at Amazon are getting fucking scraps and literally dying and literally having all these fucking physical and like financial issues and are barely able to survive and are living like fucking refugees working for one of the biggest corporations in the world. Meanwhile, their fucking CEO, or former CEO at this point, as I'm saying this on Amazon's platform, he was the richest person in the world. Or Elon Musk is now. I'm not keeping track of that shit. He was for a long ass fucking time. So it's like, holy shit, I didn't know Amazon was a fucking communist system that y'all fucking support apparently. Like, what the fuck is that point? Like, oh wow, that doesn't sound like capitalism where everyone gets fucked over except for one person who's reaping the benefits of everyone else being exploited and just shit on. No way, that's not capitalism at all. That's fucking communism because it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, it must be communism from my fucking smooth-brained worldview. That's clearly what it is.
We do want equal opportunity, but some people are poor and some people are rich. In this system, everyone is wearing the same clothes in the same room, being brutalized by the powers that ultimately results in one person having all the wealth and everyone dying. That is not capitalism. In communism, everybody wears the same clothes.
No, it's not fucking communism, you fucking idiot. You literally fucking read Ayn Rand and you said that's fucking communism, you fucking moron. Is this homie is literally living in a different reality because he fucking read Ayn Rand once and he's like, all right, now I'm an expert. He didn't even fucking read like actual theory on Marxism or any of this shit. He's literally just going off of some fucking fiction shit that he fucking, god damn it. Do they think the game is the political system of the country? Apparently. Socialism is when everything the same. Communism is when everything the same. Okay, actually that's a good point. They only dress the same in the game. Outside of that, they have regular clothes. Is that not how most jobs work in capitalism? That's actually a better parallel, and not some like fucking Ayn Rand shit that's not actually real. You're going off of a fucking piece of fiction that was written 100 years ago, you fucking moron.
They get garbage food every day. They're like, okay, the game's over. Here's the food you get, and they get trash. Yeah. And they're fighting each other because they're starving.
Why are they starving? Why are they there? They actually don't even need to be there. Why are they there if they don't need to be there? The reason they're still there, even though they don't need to be, is out of desperation. It's because they have no other choice, not because they are living in a failing communist or socialist system, but because of capitalism. Because they're in a capitalist system that has exploited them and used them up for everything they possibly can. Told them, hey, play this game of trying to make money, trying to make ends meet, in a system that will not allow for that, unless you have intrinsic privileges that allow you to do so. Oh, they're starving because the game did that. They're desperate because the game. No. The game is a singular structure within the broader system. And these people are choosing to be there. The same way that if you have no other options, you're going to work in a service job that is demeaning, that is unsafe, that does not give you the means to live, that is going to starve you. And the only way in that situation that you could potentially even hope to make a living and be able to live within your means is if you fuck over all of your coworkers and move up the social ladder like a fucking gaslight gatekeep girl boss or like a ruthless capitalist. Bro, just the way, like, hold up.
To a communistic system where they were doing really, really bad
Oh,
and were executed by the state, which usually happens under communism.
The inflection that he's saying that is literally like the fucking meme of like, and that's what happens under communism. That this homie thinks he just made like the best point.
Another very interesting aspect of that story is the masks that the very rich people were wearing were kind of similar to the same masks that the Rothschilds were pictured wearing at some of their private parties and galas a couple decades ago. So I saw that right away. I was like, wait, that's the elites doing this. And I thought of the movie more of a critique about the ruling elites.
You're literally so close. So many conservatives will go down this line where they get so close to actually like being on the right track, because ultimately what we want is not like, oh, the left is right and the right is wrong. It's more so that, okay, we are ultimately being oppressed by an elite ruling class under capitalism. This person is saying, oh yeah, that's the message of the show, is that, you know, these ruling elites are, you know, oppressing these people. But then you're like, but that's like communism. Do you hear yourself? I mean, of course you do. You just think that you're fucking brilliant because you're sitting here like, that's like communism. You just got fucking pwned, bro. I'm not owned, you're owned, you fucking loser, dude. Fucking sweaty ass, free head fucking loser. I just fucking got chicken tendies, bro. It's like you get so close because you have like just a little bit of class consciousness and then like this fucking deranged worldview of like, I read Ayn Rand once, and like, because my brain is just so full of worms from all this fucking propaganda from the last 100 years that I can't potentially even consider critiquing capitalism. Like, he's literally like, yeah, they're using this situation to exploit poor people. Like, how do you not connect the dots there?
What is this?
There's a bunch of photos from this Rothschild's
yep.
party where they're all wearing these masks that are
heck?
similar to the Squid Game thing.
Yeah.
But that's probably what he was doing, the creator.
Yeah, he's literally bringing up like capitalist critiques and then being like, and that's why communism is bad. Meanwhile, these people are saying this shit as they're being cucks and simping for the exact people that they claim to hate. They're literally supporting the status quo and supporting these generations of propaganda. And they get so close, like all this like pent up frustration and resentment towards the ruling class. And then they just turn around and they're like, and that's why we have to support the system that allows them to succeed.
I'll put it this way. Capitalism isn't the problem. Communism doesn't exist. It's just this idealized system.
Again, he's so close. Yes, communism doesn't exist. It's never existed. So why are you being like, oh, well, communist China, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's literally so much stupidity to unpack here.
The real problem is corruption and corporatism.
Yes, those communist ideas of corruption and corporatism. What allows corporations and corruption within society and within, like, the social elite to take place? It couldn't be fucking capitalism.
So-
And the left says capitalism when they mean corporatism.
I think that's
Yes, because corporations would clearly thrive under communism and socialism. I feel like I'm being gaslit as this happens. It's literally like, you just say shit that's wrong, like you're right.
exactly the problem. I think that's what he's doing with the masks. He thinks that the Rothschilds embody capitalism. They do not.
No.
How? Here's the thing. If you're gonna say something that stupid, you need to give a real explanation on why. Why are they not?
They embody elitism.
Because there's no elitism in capitalism. No, me and Jeff Bezos are on the same fucking scale, dude. Who are the elites? Who are the elites in capitalism? Tell me. Is it the poor people? Is it the people who are working at McDonald's? Are they the elites? Or is it the fucking capital owners? Who are the fucking elites?
The
We're
biggest
getting
promoters and pushers of communism and destroyers of actual, real, free markets. Another interesting aspect was
What? I'm gonna need a source on that, bro. What the fuck are you saying?
the fat guy. I mean, he looked almost exactly like Newt Gingrich. I talked to
Yes, famous fucking leftist communist Newt Gingrich. Fucking famous advocate for fucking communism, Newt Gingrich. Are you a moron? How fucking stupid are you?
But we got to understand here, there is some level of reality when it comes to super rich people coming together in the middle of the woods doing very weird things. That does happen.
And that's communism? No, that's communism. Because it's bad. That's literally your entire point. Is because it's bad, it must be communism. I don't like the elites, therefore they're commies. Even though Newt Gingrich, yeah, fucking Newt Gingrich, right-wing fucking Newt Gingrich is a communist. Clearly. Like, that's such a Mott and Bailey. You also support Newt Gingrich shipping in male prostitutes and doing all these, like, weird fucking things with all these other elites. You support that by supporting communism. You're trying to get me to argue that, which that's fucking stupid. That has nothing to do with what your actual point. Your actual point is that is somehow tied to communism, which it's fucking not, dude. Like, you're actually going to sit here and base your entire fucking argument on the idea that Newt Gingrich is a leftist. Are you fucking stupid? That is literally the stupidest argument you can make.
The police officers acted like the Gestapo against any journalist trying to do any real reporting against the Bilderberg group, and he came out of it shook, saying, hey, I thought these guys were crazy. I came here to make fun of them. These guys are honest. I'm being followed by police everywhere I go, and they're literally trying to arrest me for just trying to take a photo of David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger walking down the street.
Yes, Henry Kissinger and David Rockefeller are famously just fucking Marxist-Leninists, bro. When you get to the meat and potato of their arguments, it's literally just like, well, actually, these social elites are communists. And it's like, really now? Really now? You're going to tell me that fucking Newt Gingrich, David Rockefeller, and Henry fucking Kissinger are all supporters of Marxism, which they aren't. Why would a capital owner be a advocate for anything but capitalism?
This was a perfect time to talk about the bigger elements of these elites who do very sinister things. So that was me, the larger conversation of.
Again, they try and come out the gate and be like, this is why communism is bad, and then they literally take away the interpretation of why capitalism is the issue, but then they're like, but no, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not owned, because this is actually communism for some reason. Yeah, fucking Newt Gingrich and David Rockefeller are fucking commies.
You know, when they talk about like, oh, communism, they never actually implement it because it's not possible. It's impossible to do. And then when they criticize, when the left criticizes capitalism, they're really just angry. They're elites with centralized power, able to do really messed up things and get away with it because of how much power they've accumulated. That's not what capitalism is supposed to represent.
Okay, then explain why. Literally, you just use the entire fucking argument of like, well, communism can't be implemented because of human nature. Why is that not the issue with capitalism? Which is always the argument. It's like, oh, well, human nature will take over and people will fuck each other over and take advantage of the system. But then you're like, oh, but you can't criticize capitalism because, like, even though that's literally what happens, and you literally have all these elites who are thriving through capitalism, through owning capital, that's not how it's not supposed to represent that.
However, in our current system, which mixes it, we end up with a lot of corruption, and then you get a left saying,
all right, now we're starting to see where this is coming from. He's trying to make the argument that the issue is capitalism gets mixed in with elements of socialism which create the corruption. Okay, again, this is a take where it's like my brain actually needs to like retranslate it into not stupid. So what he's saying is capitalism is not inherently corrupt unless you add socialism or communism into the mix, basically like left-wing economic politics. And that's the real issue. Are we sure about that? The vast majority of our political system and the people in power are not economic leftists. Even Democrats tend to be socially liberal, but fiscally conservative. In order for this argument to work, it would have to be applied to something like democratic socialism, which that's not the system that we exist under. And in fact, systems like that in the world do not have the corruption that we have. So evidence shows that you're a fucking dumbass. He's literally admitting that capitalism doesn't work, and he's admitting that, like, that's the issue. And he's admitting that, like, okay, yeah, this show is actually kind of criticizing capitalism. He's literally just being a baby and being like, well, no, the reason why those flaws are there is because of socialism and communism, and those things are intruding on our system, and that's why this corruption exists. And it's like, no, dude, like, that's literally copium. Like, when you actually start to apply this shit that he's trying to say, it doesn't actually make sense. It doesn't actually add up. In order for what he's saying to be true, you would have to look at a company like Amazon and have the workforce actually be democratic, have unions, have an equal distribution of the profits, and have there be still the same level of corruption. Have there still be a elite class. I mean, there might still be corruption. There's definitely corruption within unions. And again, like, you can potentially argue that, but there are also a lot of unions where that doesn't happen. The surplus labor value going directly not to the people providing that labor, but to the person at the top who owns capital, allowing them to be one of these elites who you are criticizing, that is a capitalist thing. In what world does it make sense to argue that is a symptom of communism, or that is a symptom of socialism? That's literally what you're arguing, and that makes zero sense. If you actually understood Marxism, then you would understand that implementing aspects of Marxism would combat those things. This entire video is them coming so close to being like, you know, class consciousness and like all this shit, and just like a complete lack of understanding of the theory, to the point where they have inhaled so much copium of like, no, capitalism is good, communism is when genocide, communism is when no house, when no food, people starve, and they do not have the ability to comprehend the fact that the shit that they're saying is insanely fucking stupid. My brain melted.
We have caught and compromised to a permanent end Osama bin Laden. Something tonight, but I feel damn proud to be an American.